to the people that I know, and they reach out to me. There's a lot of history with me. I've been here a long time. Today is another example of, I knew Jason Mazzala's dad, and Jason called me and said, I think you may recognize my name. I said, absolutely, I recognize your name. There are a lot of aircraft owners, supporters, restorers, people who make these programs very interested. So to all of them who always answer my call, or I answer their call, and we bring you these great programs, our mission here is history, heroes, and heritage at Warbirds in Review, EA Warbirds of America. We have the support of our board members and all of our Warbird members. It is pretty phenomenal what we do here at Oshkosh at AirVenture. So I thank you for making our programs. And where else do you sit in the stands and watch a B-29 fly over? So my thanks go to Scott's Miracle-Gro company. They continue to be our sustaining sponsor. Ron and Diane Fagen provided the building behind us. If you haven't been to Granite Falls, Minnesota, it's worth the trip to see the Fagen Fighters WWII Museum. They are huge supporters of Warbirds. They restore a lot of airplanes, have a great museum. There's another museum that you'll hear about here today in this program. I thank all of our volunteers, and especially to Sleeping Dog Production, to Air TV, Scott Guyette and his wife Kyle. Kyle keeps us all running straight here. To all the volunteers, as you might imagine, this is quite the production. It takes a lot of people to make this work. So my thanks to all of them. And today's program, a gorgeous P-38. I mean, this is pretty amazing. The restoration is amazing. You're going to hear about their story, so I invite you to watch the video that is the intro to their story. And then Brigadier General retired Ed McElhaney is going to be your moderator, and he will introduce your guest here very shortly. So thanks for being here.
The P-38 Lightning was one of the greatest fighter planes of World War II. Lockheed built more than 10,000 P-38s during the war in 18 distinct versions. P-38 pilots flew more than 130,000 sorties in every theater of the war. In the Pacific, P-38 pilots shot down more Japanese aircraft than any other fighter. In Europe, photo reconnaissance P-38s captured 90% of the aerial photos taken over the continent. Colonel Ben Kelsey, a P-38 test pilot, perfectly captured the P-38's character when he wrote, "That comfortable old cluck would fly like hell, fight like a wasp, and land like a butterfly." First Lieutenant J.T. Robbins flew P-38s in the Pacific Theater with the 80th Squadron based at Port Moresby, New Guinea. The 80th was nicknamed the Headhunters after the local headhunting tribesmen who hated the Japanese and helped rescue downed Allied airmen. The squadron's P-38s often protected B-25 bombers, making low-altitude attacks on Japanese positions and shipping around Rabaul. Lieutenant Robbins flew his first World War II combat mission in January 1943. On that mission, he and another fighter pilot joined forces to shoot down a Japanese fighter. But the authorities did not allow shared credit for a kill, so the two pilots flipped a coin. Robbins lost. He made up for it. In 181 combat missions, he shot down 22 enemy fighters. That score earned him the title of Quadruple Ace in the Pacific. It required skillful flying and shooting, good luck, and a certain amount of recklessness.
Once I felt I was competent as a pilot and found that I was quite good about the time that I got into flying fighters, I was like many others. I suppose I felt near invincible. And as a result, I did take many chances. In retrospect, I thought, well, maybe that wasn't too goddamn good an idea that I did that today. But it worked out all right, and the more it worked out, the more it seemed to be a sort of a self-feeding fuel to. But I don't think I ever got to the point where I didn't do a little bit of thinking about. In many cases, you were up against 8 and 10 to 1 odds in an air combat.
During his time with the Headhunters, Robbins flew 5 different P-38 Lightnings, all nicknamed Wandina, a blend of his name Jay and his wife's name Ina. Wandina III, the P-38 you see here today, is one of the P-38s that Robbins flew in New Guinea. On May 7, 1944, she suffered a nosewheel failure, and Robbins made a wheels-up landing at Yemai Airfield, New Guinea. Wandina III sat abandoned there, written off, stripped of usable parts, and propped up on oil drums for 45 years. In 1999, her wreckage was recovered and shipped to Australia and later the U.S., where she was eventually restored. Now she flies again to honor and remember Lieutenant Robbins and all the young men of Headhunters Squadron of World War II.
Gentlemen, we're on. Follow me. Thanks, Connie.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We only got 2 seats because I'm going to be standing. So, Jason, you can take the one closest to me. And, Robbie, you got the next one over there. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Ed McElhenney again. Thanks so much for being here. We've got a great program this morning. As you can tell, it's about the fork-tailed devil, as they called it over there. The plan of attack here is basically, I'm going to introduce these guys. We're going to get, the less I talk, the better. I'm going to get these guys to talk about the airplane, talk about somebody's dad. We're going to do a quick walk around. I just want to make sure, too, we got Chad and Kevin out there in the audience somewhere. Where are you guys? There's one, okay. And Chad, are you somewhere out there, too? Chad is over here. Okay, keep going. Okay, because there he is. Okay, good. Because those are the guys who are going to be helping us do the walk around at the end. But before we go any further, I'm going to say right now, thanks to you guys for being here. Thanks for bringing the airplane here. Recent restoration, I think, correct me, the 25th of June is when it was finished.
That's
and
correct.
So here we are. With that, I'm going to say the first guy here on my left here is Jason Mazzala. He's CEO of The Roost. On the other side there, we've got Robbie Robbins. And if you think that name is familiar, well, yeah, take a look at the name on the airplane, and yeah, that was his dad. Something they didn't, I'm not sure they even mentioned it in the video there, but his dad retired as a lieutenant general. And yeah, so he had a great start with his dad, and it continued on. He is also a military pilot. His brother is a military pilot. We have a very similar background, both F-4 guys, F-16 guys. He's a little bit before me, but yeah, he'll be talking a little bit about his dad and some of the how it was growing up there. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason right now. Like I said, CEO of The Roost. And there's a museum in Everett, Washington also that is associated. And he's the guy who's in charge kind of this restoration project and projects, I should say. And so, Jason, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you are, and your current job right now.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. First of all, just want to start by thanking everybody for coming out and giving us support. Super excited to be here and share the airplane with everybody here at AirVenture. The airplane is owned and will reside at the Flying Heritage and Combat Armor Museum in Everett, Washington. And the Flying Heritage Collection was founded by Paul Allen a number of years ago. And Paul quickly became known or kind of renowned in the warbird community for restoring aircraft to exacting standards. And it was important to him to create airplanes that were a piece of history in the most accurate way possible so that you guys could experience that, basically. Because of that, you know, he has one of the most, or created one of the most iconic collections, not because of the quantity of airplanes that he has, but because of the quality of airplanes and the rare airplanes, really unique. Obviously, Paul's no longer with us. The museum has changed hands and was acquired by Stuart Walton, who immediately made the decision and knew the importance of what Paul had established. And Stuart committed to not only carry that torch, but to make it brighter. And so I would just encourage you guys to visit the museum up in Everett there. And everything you see here with this P-38 is times 100 when you get up there. It's really, really quite great. And the direction that Stuart's taking the collection with his board is pretty amazing. So, yeah, this was #1 on the docket as far as restorations to complete. And
they started it though back then when Paul owned the collection, correct? So they started it. Then there was a break, you know. I mean, and Stuart acquired it. So now the decision had to be made. What are we going to do? Yeah,
precisely. And this was kind of a no-brainer. He said, "Yeah, this airplane is it's iconic as an airplane, just as a P-38, but the story behind it is." Just really something. We'll get into that a little bit more with Robbie. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the restoration. So as you saw in the video, the airplane was recovered in Papua New Guinea, brought over to the United States, and I'd like to call out some of the restorers involved. It was began by a company in Colorado Springs it started in Rialto, moved to Colorado Springs, and that's Westpac. Their restorations are no strangers to the warbird communities and AirVenture here. And so the first half of the project was done by Westpac Restorations. They had help from a smaller company near Boise, Idaho called Eagle Restorations, who did a lot of the sheet metal work and just a fantastic job. And with most restorations, there's typically several people in the warbird restoration community that are involved, and certainly the case with this airplane.
How far along was it when you acquired it? How much had been done? Was it a lot to be done, or just a little bit left to finish?
Well, well, let's see. It started like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
the whole thing started like that.
Yeah, what we had, and that's what Westpac started with. The project.
That, by the way, if you can't recognize it, that's the cockpit, correct? That's the.
Yeah,
the
absolutely. Yeah, I thought that was maybe covered in the video. So, yeah, that's the original cockpit, what you call the gondola section of the aircraft, and you can see J.T. Robbins' name and his crew chief Mospec down there, and that kind of piece that hooks up there is the windscreen, kind of the beginning of the windscreen. So. When you get a chance to look at this, it'll be on display, and I think you'll be able to approach it here after the program. But just have a look inside, and you'll see kind of a little hump in there where the nose wheel would go, and J.T. Robbins sat right behind that, and you wonder, what it's like to see a little piece of history. Well, there was an American hero who was a quadruple ace that sat in that piece of history right there, which is really neat.
Okay, so you acquired it like that, and then away it went.
Yeah, Westpac, they did the first part of the restoration, and then the restoration moved to Ezel Aviation, who has done just an incredible job completing the restoration and holding true to the exacting standards to make it original the way it was during World War II. Our mission wasn't to make it original like it came out of the factory, because this aircraft was responsible for 5 confirmed kills and 2 claims. So we kind of just put it together. We didn't polish it. We flew it and hope that this represents exactly what it looked like during World War II.
How long did it take when you first got working on it and till June 25th?
Yeah, nobody ever asks how long or how much these restorations takes. First time I've heard that question.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah. It took a long time. Yeah. There were some sort of kind of life factors that got in the way, the passing of Paul Allen and COVID and changing hands of the museum. So the project took 18 years overall, but not all of those 18 years were full-speed restoration. It was a little bit shy of that, but definitely something that we weren't in a hurry to get done. We wanted to be sure that it was done right.
What was the most difficult portion of the restoration?
Well, it's a P-38, so there's nothing that's not difficult about it.
Okay. Parts availability, non-existent. Most of them were hand-built. Is that right?
For the sheet metal structure, yeah, but surprisingly, there's a decent stock of kind of internal parts and, like actuators and landing gear and stuff like that. So we did have kind of a stock to draw from. Okay.
I'm going to let Robbie talk here for a minute, and I'm going to start. Everybody's got probably a pretty good view of the Buddha up there and the Wandina III that's on there. And I'll just start with, why was it named Wandina? Where'd that come from?
Wandina comes from my mother and father's name combined. When my father was born, it was J. Thorpe Robbins. So he didn't have a surname. So when he joined the military, he had to lengthen it, so he went to J-A-Y. But when they got together with my parents, they decided on, after they had met and they named an airplane after the two of them, then J and Ina. But they didn't like the sound of Jandina, so they came up, since my father was from Texas, the Wand, so Wandina is what they ended up with. And up until a year ago, nobody on the planet except my brother and I knew that it was really Wandina and not Jandina. So that's where it is today.
Okay, and it is a military family, by the way. His dad obviously flew this airplane. This guy is a former F-4, F-16 kind of guy also. His brother was a C-130 guy. He went to that school down in Texas with an A&M after the end of it. And he got into it that way. But how about your mom and dad? I think there's an interesting history there too. And tell us a little bit how they met and the connection, the military connection, if you will. He made a comment inside about what your mom and dad were both in the military before the war and after the war. Is that right?
Correct. My mother was from New England. She went to nurse training, and because she was top of her class, they kept her along there in the hospital, and she was tired of working 60-hour weeks every week forever, so she decided to join the Army to take a break. And she was due to get out of the Army on December 10th, 1941. Well, a little bit late for her, so she was on the first boat leaving New York Harbor for the Pacific, originally part of a 4th General Hospital, I believe, and en route to Singapore, where they were going, the Japanese captured it, so they got diverted to Melbourne. that is where my dad met my mother, was in the hospital in Melbourne. He was then a P-39 pilot in Milne Bay in New Guinea. And he had a annual flight physical, and they found a heart murmur, I can't pronounce the word, but he had this murmur, and the flight surgeon wouldn't clear him until he had that checked out. Well, the nearest DKG happened to be in Melbourne, Australia. So he flew PBY to Townsville, I guess, in Australia. Then from there, a hospital boat down to Melbourne. You can imagine this takes a while. And he was walking down the hall, and he gets this hand on his arm, and it was my mother grabbing him. There was a sick soldier that fell out of bed that she couldn't get in, and he happened to be the nearest guy. And that's how they met. And he happened to be assigned to that same ward, so they got to see each other frequently. So I think that's where the romance began, obviously. They were there I think my dad was there for another 2 months before he got sent back to New Guinea. And subsequently, my mother also got stationed in New Guinea at Port Moresby for, about 6-8 months or something. So they were only a mile apart from where he was at 3 Mile Drone.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's keep on looking. As long as we're looking at nose art up there, how about it looks like a Buddha there. What does that symbolize?
My dad, before he went to Pacific, he flew out of San Francisco, Hamilton Field, and they had a few days off, so he went to Chinatown in San Francisco. And he was walking the streets and went into some shop, and he saw the Buddha. Mm-hmm. And he talked to him. They said, yes, will bring you good luck, So he's figuring he was about to go off to the war. He could use a little bit of good luck, so he got the Buddha. Mm-hmm. And he carried that with him the entire war. And that's where the story of the Buddha comes. And my brother and I both graduated from pilot training in the Air Force. My mother gave us each a small Buddha that we carried throughout our careers.
Wow, that's cool. And I've got one other sticker here that I need kind of an explanation. It's a P-38 with there's a piggyback, and I don't know if we can see it, but I'll just ask, what's the symbolization of that? What is that?
When my mother got stationed in Port Moresby, my dad took her up for a flight in the back seat. Well, took out the radios, I guess, in that P-38 and took her up. And they gave her a certificate that she was part of the piggyback fraternity. And that certificate, it was 8x10, something like that, hung in our garage for 25 years in my dad's house in San Antonio. And as near as I can tell, nobody's ever seen one of those that.
Yeah, I saw it back there, and I looked at it. I said, and it's literally it's a P-38. I don't know if you could see it, but a P-38 with let's see, it looks like a dog with his tongue hanging out on the back, and a pig back there, and it is unique. That is for sure.
So I think during the war, my mother got 5 flights with my father. I know of 2 in Australia, the P-38, and then there was an L-4. I think she went up in twice in Port Moresby.
Wow. All right, let's get back to the airplane a little bit. And Jason, I'll let you talk a little bit more about it. Just the configuration right now. We got 2 drop tanks on it. Where did it fly in from? Where was it when we acquired it here today? Where did you guys bring it in from?
Well, it was completed at Zell Aviation in Breckenridge, Texas, and then it spent a week in Bentonville, Arkansas. We did some kind of finishing touches and got it ready for the show, and then it flew up here from Arkansas. Yeah.
Any immediate issues with it? Is it flying well right now, or should I ask that to Kevin up there?
Kevin's giving a thumbs up. Yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of a big effort to get big coordination between Ezel and ourselves to get the airplane here, and then also I should point out Air Corps Aviation. We got them involved to partner on getting the airplane here and showing it well. So if you've seen the airplane over there, the displays, all the information, that's all for Air Corps Aviation. And they also helped with the restoration, by the way. And I think what it displays that I'd encourage everybody to look at with the presentation and the way it'll display in the museum is there's kind of three pillars that this airplane hits on. Obviously, number one, it's J.T. Robbins and his legacy, and the effect that J.T. Robbins himself had in the aviation community, because he wasn't just an American hero during World War II. He raised 2 sons that flew for the Air Force, one of which was also a JUVAT, and trained a lot of other pilots. And we've had 80th Fighter Squadron pilots come in asking for Robbie, saying, hey, I was trained by Robbie, and his dad came in and talked. So it wasn't just what he did in this airplane. It was an impact he had on the world, really, I guess, or certainly the United States. And then, of course, the restoration. And we'll get into that later. We'll get Kevin and Chad down here to talk about the intricate part of flying and restoring a P-38. But kind of thirdly, which impacts everybody, whether you're into aviation or not, is the story that Robbie just told, the love story. And just the way his parents met, got together, and now one of the most famous fighters during World War II, Wandina, nobody knew it was based on a love story and a lucky Buddha. So just really kind of a neat thing that you can really pick up there. So I missed that in the first part. So
how about Robbie? How did you get involved with all this? I mean, the airplane was. Where did you finally find out about it? And how long ago?
Since I came back from Korea when I was in the 80th, there was a reunion, the 80th reunion in Ogden, Utah in 1984. That was the first Headhunter reunion that I went to. I went to, I think, all of them except for one through the years until 2017, when it kind of slacked off and stopped. I think we've had one since. What was your question again?
How did you get tangled up with these guys?
Involved.
Yeah, I mean, it was a matter of they're restoring this airplane, and you probably didn't know anything about it. And then all of a sudden you found out that, hey, they got a P-38 with your dad's name on it.
I got it now.
Okay.
In that reunion that I went to, there was one subsequent to that in Colorado Springs, and there's a lot of P-38 pilots, old pilots, and a lot of JUVATs that we all went by and took a look at the Westback, I guess is what it's called, had that piece of fuselage sitting in there that was going to be restored. And I said, that was the first time. A couple years later, there was another reunion. I went back, and it was still looking just like that.
You could see your dad's name on it.
I saw the dad's name, and it was still sitting there. Well, I forgot about it. Didn't forget about it for years, but every now and then I would check with him. And finally, I decided to check with him about 2 years ago. And I said, what's the status of the P-38? And he said, well, we no longer have it. It's sent down to Ezel Aviation down in Breckenridge, Texas. So I Googled it and found out, and finally got in touch with Chad Ezel down there. And he said, yeah, we got it. It's being restored, and the person you need to talk to is Jason. So I got in touch with Jason about a year and a half ago, and ever since I've been intimately involved, getting pictures and stories and everything else, helping out for this day.
Outstanding, outstanding. And I'm going to ask Chad. Where's Chad? Chad, come out here for a second. We're going to give you a microphone because I want to hear a little bit about the restoration. It sounds like no. You're not just going to walk away. If we've got a mic nearby, there'll be one shortly. Here we go. Connie's got it. And yeah, I'd like to ask about, I asked Jason, what's the most difficult, and he said it's all difficult. Okay, but I'm going to ask you now, what's the most difficult?
If you start right here and you keep going to that Hellcat, you might have gone far enough. It's a unique airplane. It was designed in the late 30s, and they were, Skunk Works started there. Kelly Johnson was
Lockheed, yep.
And their design and everything they were doing was state-of-the-art, brand new thought process, and they kind of had a direction they wanted to go, and then everything else was kind of, for a mechanic side of it, put into a corner. So it's a very complicated airplane to manufacture and build, and it's a very complicated airplane to restore and maintain. So
Okay. And
I don't know how else to put it without getting very drawn out and boring, and I'll start getting upset.
How about engine-wise? The engine's pretty reliable at this point. And maybe I should ask Kevin about this, but yeah.
Well, they only quit because he select their own tank.
Oh,
maybe.
I
That's
didn't ask that question.
Well, no, he knew he would run tanks dry. You know, part of the process is we're proofing the aircraft for safety reason. He goes altitude and he'll run a tank dry, and he wants to know, well, how long did it take to do that? And we found issues with a carburetor, you know, flowing fuel back more than it's supposed to. You'd have to understand the way the carburetor works and a vapor vent return. So we learned things we didn't know, but you know, the engines are really reliable. Vintage V12s did the engines. Jose,
They're
Flores.
Allisons, right?
Yes, sir. They are Allisons.
Allisons, and
Yeah.
they rotate.
The
right?
opposite direction. Yes.
Okay.
Sir, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're both going this way, right?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Just because it looks pretty, I think, is really the only reason they did that. You know, there was a lot of the inner fillets were there was a lot of heartache in the design because they had a lot of turbulence over the tail, and they kept changing the direction of rotation of props. And then there's a lot of theories of why, and then within the result of why this. But one story says the fillets fixed the problem. The big fillets around the gondola that they were trying to solve with the propeller rotation, but they stuck with that rotation because of benefits of that. So,
Okay. Outstanding. Well, I'm going to ask Kevin come down here right now because I want to get a little bit of a pilot's perspective. I'm sure y'all are kind of interested a little bit. And Jason, you said he's got like 500 hours in the P-38 or something. Is that right?
Well, that's what he told me.
Okay. Yeah. I guess we're going to find out for real. Okay. 500. Okay.
500, yeah.
So I want to ask Kevin, how's this thing fly? I mean, I know it's only been airborne for what, you know, a month and a half or so now.
You know, it's a great airplane compared to other fighters like a P-51. It's a big airplane, so you get in it and you muscle it around. It doesn't have the visibility that some do, but it's a real solid, smooth running airplane. Easy to take off and land because of the tricycle gear, obviously, but it's just a great airplane.
All right, how about a quick walk around on this thing? You know, start from stem to stern. You know,
Okay.
things that and I don't know.
Well, we started in the nose. That's Chad's favorite, like he said. But we got
Chad.
450 caliber machine guns, a 20 millimeter. 20 millimeter had 150 rounds. The 50 cals had 500 rounds apiece. Landing gear here. It's got a shimmy dampener to keep the pretty much to keep the nose gear centered. There's no differential or there's no nose wheel steering, so it's differential braking and throttle to get it to steer, so that helps it.
They flew these things off of dirt and grass and all
Yeah.
kinds of weird stuff, right?
They did.
So
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, big tires, so it was a real tundra type of airplane. I mean, it was a tough airplane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll kind of start here. Engine, we got the three intakes here. The outer ones are the oil coolers. The inner one is the intercooler. So that cooled the air charge from the turbo before it went to the carburetor.
Mm.
Propellers, as we said, they both turn outward, so that means they have two critical engines. 120 miles an hour is the single engine speed. It lifts off from the ground about 110 miles an hour, so you get there pretty quick, but the problem they had, heavy weight, using full power. If they lost an engine on rotation, it wasn't a normal thing to do, but they would have to pull the other throttle back.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they didn't have enough rudder authority, so that got a lot of guys in trouble. But
Okay.
that's why. But they ended up on that outward churning. It was a better gun platform. From
Kind
what
of
I've
weird
heard.
though. You lose an engine and you're pulling those, power
Right,
back.
you'd have to pull it back. You
It's
see
like-
everything you're going forward, but yeah, you got to pull it back. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're electric props. That's if I had to say the P-38 had any Achilles, problems. It was the props. They're slow to feather, maybe 30 seconds sometimes. There's a lot of wiring and brush block stuff up here, so they're susceptible to dirt and dust, and they quit working in automatic, and you have a manual backup, but that was probably the least reliable part of the airplane was the
Huh,
props.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ed, before we move back, I'd like to answer one question that we've been getting a lot about the airplane. This kind of goes to the restoration side of the detail Chad's gone to. You can see there's a number etched in the metal up here, 2822, as well as the original Air Force information block that all airplanes had. And you see the Mustangs have them right there on the left side as well. And it's just etched. So one thing with the P-38s is that was the Lockheed ship number in the factory. And all the Air Force airplanes had to have this block on it, as well as the serial number on the tail. But the 80th Fighter Squadron didn't like it there because, you know, they wanted the nose for ours. So they would just get lacquer thinner and wipe it off when it got in there. And we've got, you know, photos of guys sitting on the tail wiping the serial numbers off. So Chad and his crew went through the trouble of stenciling the airplane, you know, etching it, scuffing it, painting it, and then wiping it off. And that's kind of the level of detail that they went through. And we've had a lot of people ask about it, so I just thought I'd put that
Well
out
done.
there.
That's called attention to detail is what that's called.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
well done, Chad.
Yeah, carry on.
All right.
We'll head around the corner here. These are just cooling air intakes for the engine. Over here, this is the exit duct for the oil cooler. It had an automatic position, or you could manually run it open and close to set the temperature. This bottom exit is the intercooler duct exit, and that was a manual switch, and you would modulate that to keep the carburetor temperature below 50 degrees.
How about on the ground? Like, you know, P-51s and some of these other Warbirds have real problems overheating on the ground for a very long time. You got that
You
problem
do
too?
have that. One of the great things about new restorations is people come along and improve on the original product. That's happened in the P-38 world with the coolant radiators. So they have new aluminum radiators instead of the brass radiators, and they actually cool better than the old ones. So you still have to be careful, especially taxiing downwind. You know, the heat builds up pretty quick, but they're not too bad as far as heating. Just gear doors. A lot of hydraulics on this airplane. This is the actual intake for the turbo and the impeller on the bottom. So the air comes in here first, gets spun up and squeezed, and goes forward to the intercooler to the carburetor. And as I said, this is a liquid-cooled engine, so it has two coolant radiators on each side of the boom, with a automatic position for the doors, or you could run them. You could only run them all the way open, all the way closed, or in auto.
How do you run them?
Auto keeps them from like 90 to 110 degrees centigrade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The battery was back here. You know, very unique tail. Nothing else is like that. It's real light on the elevators. They did have that buffet problem, as they talked about. So one of the things they thought would fix it are those bob weights on the horizontal over there. That actually didn't fix it, and they ended up putting the fillets on it that solved the problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about ailerons? Roll rate on this thing, pretty good?
It's not bad. Like I said, this is a J model, so it's all cable driven. It's got heavy ailerons compared to other fighters, but you know, when you roll the yoke, you actually go past 180 all the way if you want to do a fast roll, and it's not as fast as others. The later models, the L models, they went to a hydraulically boosted system, so they're feather light on the controls. They really have a fast roll rate.
Okay.
But it's a big airplane, 52-foot wingspan, so it's a big airplane out there doing stuff.
Cockpit-wise, comfortable, big,
very
roomy?
Yeah. Well, this one's not so roomy, but the ones without all the stuff are pretty roomy. Yeah, you climb up from the back on that ladder, so you got to have a little bit of agility to get in there in the first place. Get in the cockpit, lots of leg room. The visibility is not as good as you actually think it is, because as you see all the bars across the windows and everything, and the dihedral on the wings kind of blocks it out a little bit. But very comfortable cockpit. And everything in the cockpit is laid out very nice.
All right, I got to ask the question. Robbie, you said your mom rode in this thing how many times? 5 times or something like that?
One time in a P-38.
Okay. Yeah. Where would she sit?
She would sit behind. This one has the armor plating, so they probably took the armor plating out, and where all the radios are, you sit right there. The wing spar is right there.
Okay.
And so you actually sit on the wing spar.
Okay.
And actually, Planes of Fame in Chino, our P-38, At one point, we were given rides, and we moved our seat forward about 4 inches, and it didn't have anything back there, and we had a seatbelt back there, so we gave a few piggyback rides there.
All right, how about flaps? Flaps very effective?
Yeah, big flaps, Fowler flaps. It had 2 positions, or you could modulate them in the middle and stop them. They had a maneuver flap position, which was basically half flap, and they could put those out up to 250 miles an hour, and that could tighten their turn. And then full flap, which is a lot of flap that you really feel the drag, and that's 150 miles an hour is maximum speed on that.
Okay, how about approach speeds on this thing?
Approach speed, you come, you basically over the fence at 110, but you start slowing down. Gear speed's 175. Turn base, let's say like 150 with half flap out, and then once you get close in on final, you're basically about 120 miles an hour. Put full flaps out, over the fence at 100, touchdown, or over the fence about at 110, and touchdown about 100.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice
Okay.
rollout. It's got real heavy brakes, so you don't want to use them too much anyway, because you just wear them out. But
But they're effective.
They're real effective. They're just real heavy compared to other things. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to think anything else on the walk around we need to see, but yeah. What are we looking at on the top of the motors right there?
That on top of the motors here, that's the actual turbo supercharger, external turbo supercharger. The engine had an internal supercharger, but then it also had the external turbo supercharger. So one of the reasons the P-38 is so quiet is that the exhaust just goes through that and just out a little exit, the wastegate. So it's a really quiet airplane compared to other individuals with different stack configuration.
And how much horsepower per engine?
This one has 1,425 beside.
Okay. And I know there was talk at one point about maybe putting rolls in them or something like that for more
They
horsepower.
did, and actually, Rolls is a great airplane, but what they found out is when they did all the testing, this had a better fuel burn, so you weren't going to gain anything with the Rolls-Royce because it used 700 to 800 horsepower just to run the supercharger, and this had a better fuel burn, so they could go farther with it and have greater range with it.
All right. How about altitude? How high?
44,000, I think is what the number says for them to go up. I go up to about 10 or 11. So.
Smart man. Smart man. All right. Well, thanks. I don't think there's anything else right now. I know we're going to get some questions afterwards, but yeah, on the walk around, I appreciate that very much. And I got to ask, Chad, anything more to add on a walk around? Yeah, he says, here, quick, take it.
Well, everywhere you see the silver paint, I've been asked this too. Those were made out of mild steel, and the early P-38 was all aluminum. But then, as you know, the shortages of materials were coming along, they started making more materials out of steel or mild steel. And the mild steel is a lot easier to form and stamp than aluminum. And that's why you see everything was silver. They would stamp it out of silver, then they'd shoot a silver lacquer over it. So that's what the silver represents, where there was a mild steel. Or
Okay.
it is mild steel. We didn't change a lot.
Okay, how about the overall paint scheme? You know, like the props, is that authentic? Is that the way?
Well, we had a long talk over coffee and talk, well, what should we paint it like? And say, oh, wait a minute. This is that airplane. We should paint it like that. So it was a real short conversation.
So it's pretty, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We knew what we wanted to look like, and Robbins came along with all of the great photos that enhanced what we already had. And of course, we quizzed him to know well, what color was this? Well, what color was this? Because he had really good input, because he had conversations with his dad about it, obviously.
Yeah.
And being in the same squadron, he had that information. So it really helped us nail down what the colors were, and his input was just gold to us. Because, you know, sometimes you end up guessing what shade of blue and all of it, and we were running colors by him. Oh, no, that was it right there. That's what it would have been like. Yeah,
Wow.
so.
The scheme itself, I'll add, is specific to J.T. Robbins. So he was the CEO of the 80th, and that was signified by the stripes. So the green and white stripes were, everybody knew it was his airplane. So that was something specific to him.
Okay. All right, I'm going to say thank you, Chad. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. We've got just a little more time here, but before I turn it over for questions, I'm going to ask any of you guys, you know, anything we need to bring up about this airplane, or about your family, Robbie. I see him moving that way. No?
I'm just getting out of your way.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to ask. You know, you're the son, and growing up with JT, good, bad, ugly. You had a discipline story from what I remember. You were going to talk to me about.
No, I won't say. My brother and I never had a discipline problem around my dad because he took care of that when we were a pretty young age. I think there isn't anybody out here that hasn't heard the story, just wait till your dad gets home. Well, that happened to us one time, a couple times. In England, when I was probably 8, 9 years old, my brother was 3 years older than I. Mother would say, just wait till your dad gets home, and initially we didn't think much of it until one day he comes home with some boxing gloves. And me being the youngest, I always got to pick the first pair, so I got the ones that looked like feather pillows, and my brother got the 4-ounce ones, which were nothing but leather. And I got first punch, and it bounced off him, then he got second punch, and I'm down the ground crying. And then my brother's crying because I was crying. And that happened twice. And forever after, whenever my mother said, wait till your dad gets home, we shut up. we wanted nothing to do with that.
Yeah, then you learned about discipline at Texas A&M for a while, too.
Well, he went through it. My uncle, with my brother, a lot of cousins. So, yeah, grin and bear it.
Yep. The family has a real history. How many? Yes, see, your dad, you, your brother, your cousins.
Uncle and nephew.
Yeah, that's not bad. All right. With that, I'm going to say anything else, Jason, to add that we've missed at this point. I think you've covered a lot about your organization, about the museum up at Everett. We've talked a little bit about the airplane, some of the performance, and the restoration. Talked about where it came from. I will say thank you for what you've done and what it represents too. You know, your dad was a legacy. He was a great man. Obviously, he impacted many people out there. A great fighter pilot, first of all, a great leader, and benefited us all. So anything more from the crew here? If not, I'm going to open it up to questions now. Okay. In that case, I'm going to say, all right, folks, we've got all kinds of hands out there. So yeah, and everybody stays here now. Nobody's going anywhere, okay? So we can get the microphone, the right answers out there.
Bring him down?
No, I'm just pointing out these here.
How much of this plane is original, and how much did you guys make? 2%,
Okay.
5%, 10%? What?
Yeah, quite a bit. So you can see what we started with here, and for obvious reasons and safety reasons, a lot of the sheet metal, most of it, in fact, is new. So what we could use was things like armor plating, things that didn't have an impact on safety, we put back in the airplane. Because we had the cockpit section, the instrument panel was there. And this airplane carries the original radio call tag that JT Robbins flew with on the instrument panel inside. You all can get a look at that when it's back on display. We've got stairs you can look in there. So the answer is very little, which I don't think is too far off compared to a lot of restorations. Even like P-51s, when they get restored, most of it's new metal anyways. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Always good to hear from a fellow Juvat. I want to talk to you later on. There's a controversial story out there that Charles Lindbergh went out to the Pacific and taught the P-38 pilots how to lean out their engines so that they could do extended range. Some people say that was just in their standard operating manual, and it was Lindbergh's way to get into combat flying, even though he wasn't a military aviator. Thoughts on leaning out this engine, whether, they claim it shortened the life of the engine, flying it so lean for such a long time, especially like they hear, from flying it. Do you lean the engine out to extend that range and kind of sacrifice your engine a little bit?
I don't. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they did that in the war. I've heard that story. But the way we operate things today, the mixture has several positions. So there's idle cutoff, where you're getting no fuel. Then the next position up is auto lean, then auto rich, which is the rich setting. You normally keep it in for, let's say, takeoff power, and then emergency rich in case the auto doesn't work. So in the Warbird operation way everybody does it today, yeah, you would not lean it below auto lean. It's just as you said, you start detonating the engine and lower the life, and we're not going to combat. So it's the way we cruise, it's 30 inches, 2,000 RPM. It's 55 gallons a side, pretty close to that. So that's we don't get it any leaner than that. But I think in the war they found the optimum leaning procedure and manifold pressure RPM to get the range out of it.
Okay.
I can follow up on that Lindbergh story a little bit. That he did come and visit the 80th when they were at Awi Island. And at the time, my dad was probably in Australia seeing my mother. So when he was there, he stayed in my dad's tent since he was the squadron commander and he was gone.
Yeah. Wow. All right, another question. I see one right there. Yes, sir.
Yes. Are useful Lockheed production drawings available or other useful drawings available for the restoration?
All right. Are there?
The answer is yes, they are.
Okay. All right, we got one at the top there. Go ahead.
All right, I noticed that this airplane doesn't have the dive recovery flaps. Is there anything operationally that you have to take into consideration without them?
All right, go ahead.
Don't overspeed the aircraft.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, they would get in a mock tuck coming, screaming downhill. We're not, that's like 420 miles an hour down below 10. So we're not doing that. But this particular model didn't have them on there. They put them on the later ones.
Okay. All right. Before we're waiting right now, I'm going to ask. Okay, we got one, but before we go there, I want to say, and it's going to be a little bit different. I know we've got we'll see. I normally ask all the veterans to stand up, but before we go there, any Juvats out there? I want to see some Juvats stand up. If we've got some Juvats in the audience. Okay. Okay. I see one there. Okay. Thank you very much for your service. Okay. Yep. And now I'm going to ask all the veterans. Hey, Army, Air Force, Marine. Hey, everybody. If you're a veteran, please stand up. We want to say thank you for your service. All right, thank you. Now, we've got a question over here.
Like the Navy wasn't supposed to stand?
No, I'm sorry. Okay, Navy. Yeah, my brother was Navy, so yeah.
For the pilot, what did you mean by manual backup to an electric prop?
Okay, the prop system, as I said, is electric, and in the cockpit, you have two switches, one for the left prop, one for the right. It's got 3 positions. In the middle, it's shut off. The electricity is shut off to it. And you could take that and toggle it either to increase RPM or low RPM. And also that middle position, when you move it, let's say outboard, that becomes an automatic position, and then you just use the propeller levers like any other airplane.
Okay, thank you. All right, we got another one over here somewhere. There we go, the top.
How does one get onto and into the aircraft? Is there like a built-in ladder or handholds?
You probably can't see it there, but once you get to walk around, the ladder is out right now. It actually folds up into the gondola. So when you approach the airplane, if it's out, there's a handle on top, and you have to do a couple of things to get that out, and then that releases the ladder, and then you have to go up the ladder. And once you get on the airplane, then you pull it up and stow everything.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, there's one more there we go, up front.
Thank you all for being here, first of all. And I wanted to ask, what made it so effective against the German and Japanese fighters? Why was it so effective killing all those different Japanese planes?
Well, it was fast, for one. It was one of the fastest fighters when it was introduced. Great to fly, like Kevin had pointed out earlier, and then you just look at the business end up here with all those guns right centered in front of the pilot. It was probably a really good platform to, fight with. So
we had good range. It had good altitude,
Yep.
good speed. So yeah, it did all those things, and was a very, very effective fighter. Okay, got one right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions on restoration. Number 1, are there any restorable airframes out there? And if there are there any projects out there? And the second question is regarding the Greenland expedition. What's your opinion on that?
answer the first question would be a question, are you interested, or? Okay. Yeah, there are. There's still some projects out there with viable identities that could be resurrected into, you know, something like this someday. And you never know. You never know when that might happen.
How many flyable Lightnings are out there right now?
10, I believe.
10?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And I think the Greenland expedition was fantastic. I mean, one of those 10 flyable P-38s came from that, and what they did was just absolutely incredible. So I don't know what else to say about it other than.
Well, Ken's actually up there. They're actually going after another one.
Oh, the current, yeah. Well, I'm TBD is what I'd say.
Yeah. Hey, I saw that they're postponing to next summer due to weather. But I do know that gentleman, and he's been after that for many years, locating, and he believes he's found one. I did get a phone call from him talking about the hydraulic fluid he believes he drilled into in an airplane when he was born. But he's going to dig down, and we hope it's a P-38, not a bulldozer.
Okay, one more question. We got one more. Here we go, right up front.
Okay, not a Juvet, but I was a fiend at Osan.
All right, all right.
4 questions on the 50 cals. What was the max effective range? What range did most guys like to fire? How many rounds and how many seconds of fire time would that give you?
It's a lot of information I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't know the answers to all that. Does anybody? 500 rounds, Kevin says.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm unprepared. I apologize.
Not sure. I think it was 500 rounds per 50 and 200 for the 20 mil, something like that.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to do something a little different. This is being streamed, I think everybody realizes, all over the world. And we've got social media representatives here, and we've got some questions, or one question, I'll say, from social media. So go ahead, Zach. What's the question?
Yeah, so for one of our folks that's online that didn't get to make to the show, they'd like to hear about your trip up and your arrival.
Trip up and your arrival.
To the pilot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
uneventful?
I'll let you. No, it was eventful. Yeah. It was.
It was hot.
Hot. Typical kind of fighting weather on the way up. We came up in a 3-ship with Steve O'Hinton flying the Hellcat and myself in a Mustang, one of Stuart Walton's airplanes flying support for the P-38.
Where'd you come from? What was last leg?
Bentonville, Arkansas. We all rendezvoused in Bentonville and then headed up as a 3-ship, and the east-west runway was closed, so the main runway was pretty jammed up, so we got to hold over Fond du Lac for quite a while, and then...
They don't give you priority?
We tried, but no.
Okay.
I think they gave it to the Raptors.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay, so pretty much uneventful, though, other than just a hold and, yeah, okay.
You make it sound easy. Yeah. It didn't feel like that, but yeah.
I understand. All right, I think we're done at this point for time and questions, so I'm going to say thank you to you gentlemen. Chad? Yes. Thank you for your job. Well done. Robbie, thanks for being here. And your stories. Jason?
Thanks, Ed.
Well done.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. And Kevin, have a safe trip home.
Thank you.
All right, folks, thank you very much. This afternoon we've got, it's the Day of the Cats, if you haven't heard. We've got Tiger Cat, Bear Cat, Wildcat, Hellcat, and they're all going to be up in here. So, hey, go ahead and join us. Thanks again for being here.
We were made for grass, made to feel the joy of each and every blade, between our toes, across our backs, to run over its hills, marvel at its beauty, and find comfort in its stillness. We were made for grass. It's where we battled and celebrated, built monuments, grew families, forged memories, and pushed ourselves farther than ever before. We were made for grass, to care for, nurture, and cultivate. We've always made sure to have a patch of our own, because there's no greater feeling than being on the grass. except leaving it.
On January 17, 1942, Chief of U.S. Army Air Forces Henry H. Hap Arnold assigned the responsibility for one of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's highest military priorities, a payback attack on the Japanese home islands, to one of the most famous aviators in history, Lieutenant Colonel James H. Doolittle. In a mere 66 days, Doolittle had identified the airplanes that could be modified to launch a carrier-based attack some 450 miles from Japan, had assembled the volunteer crews, modified the Mitchell B-25s to give them the range to reach a safe haven in free China after the raid, and accomplished the mapping and charting the crews would require. Now on March 23, 1942, Doolittle assembled the men who had been training for the mission at their training base near Fort Walton Beach, Florida. It was time to fly the planes west to the Sacramento, California Air Depot for final adjustments. As he had before, Doolittle offered any man who wanted to the ability to leave the highly dangerous mission without recrimination. None did.
You don't take off on a mission like this without a light at the end of the tunnel. We all thought that somehow we'd get out of it.
Well, in the training in Florida, we were always flying just above the water all the time, right down over the river valleys and between the trees. And then we head stopped all the way across the United States to Alameda, just down as low as we could fly.
Yeah, I think Bill asked me if I would go as his co-pilot, and I said, well, of course.
Somewhere along the line, they interject the thing that it was a suicide mission. I don't think it was any more of a suicide mission than the guys taking off from England, going over to Germany. It was just signs of the times, and that's the way it had to be. And that's the way it was, and that's the way it was accepted.
I'm Gary Sinise, and this is Missions That Changed the War.
To me, lawn service is a scam.
There's no lawn service for you.
Unfortunately, I don't trust them very much because I don't know what they're putting down.
Nobody's going to pay attention to your lawn like you do.
It's the whole point of owning a home is that you maintain your own lawn.
We've taken care of this lawn from day one.
I take pride in it, and when people tell me it looks good, it makes me feel even better.
Do you use a lawn service?
Absolutely not. I have you.
I know what I'm putting down when I put Scott's down. I'm putting down a great product.
STS-27 was my third launch, and it was only the second launch after the Challenger accident. Well, I will never forget, we maneuvered the arm, and Mike Mullane was my arm operator, so he moved the arm over there, and we brought up the television image of the right wing, and I looked at what I was seeing, and I said to myself, we are gonna die.
You know, plants aren't so different from us, are they, Ryan?
Plants need food like people need food.
And that's right, and they do tell us what they need, like this really good organic plant food from Miracle-Gro.
It's just as important as soil, sunlight, and water.
Ryan the philosopher. And you know what this one is telling me? She needs a spicy martharita and a lounge chair by the pool. These peppers look hangry, Ryan. Eat them, don't just stand there. You know, we've started this controversy about whether this is dirt or soil.
Everyone's all up in arms about it.
So what do you call it?
You say dirt, I say soil, you say soil.
When do I say soil? I never say soil.
You just did.
There was a day in 2011 when I'm told I was the highest person on Earth. Literally. On that day, I traveled to the space equivalent altitude of 70,000 feet.
Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
It was a voyage to the edge of infinity. For a few minutes that I will remember for the rest of my life, I stared through the frost formed on the canopy of our aircraft as deeply as I could into forever. I'm Gary Sinise, and this was my high flight.
Thank you so much.
There will be a time on Wednesday when you're the highest person on Earth.
Congratulations on that. Yeah. You got it. That'll be good for the wall. How are you? I'm Gary. Thank you.
to celebrate a life of relentless evil. And though I gave you a quick death, it was not mercy. It was Ortho Ground Clear Weed and Grass Killer.
Kill 'em all! Ortho Ground Clear kills really fast and for organic gardening. Speed you can trust.
So he comes back in a few minutes with a guy about his age, same size. He says, now this is the camp commander. And I said to myself, oh yeah, this was Saturday morning. I said, oh yeah, these guys were out drinking beer last night. They said, oh, we're going to have some fun with a new guy. He says, he asked, will you write your autobiography? I said, nope. They talked in Vietnamese. He says, he asked you one last time? I said, no. He talked to me. He says, he orders you to write your autobiography. I said, I take my orders from the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. He talked a little more in Vietnamese, and he says, one more time? I shook my head. And the camp commander looks up in very good English and says, you will be very sorry. Got up and walked out. 2 or 3 minutes later, this big guy comes in, biggest Vietnamese I saw. And they put me on the ground, pulled my arms back up behind me. I couldn't do it again. My life depended on it. My palms were together behind my neck. I could scratch my neck. And they put Vietnamese handcuffs right there. And they walked out. And I thought, this ain't a big deal. About 5 minutes later, my hands were numb, my arms were numb, and shortly my shoulders were numb, and pretty soon my chest was numb. And it proved, for me at least, the whole point was, we can make you do it. What that sergeant had said. We'll show you that we run this camp. You'll do what we tell you to do. Then that night, when you were asking, this was really my low point. When I ate that meal and realized that I had been broken. And so I went over and leaned up against a wall, just slumped down. And there was one light way over in the corner. And I looked up, and it just kept attracting my attention. And I remember thinking it was like Moses in the burning bush, I guess. And I sat there and I looked at the light. And whether it was a split second or an hour, I can't tell you. But I had an experience of something happened to me, and it was all over. I feel very comfortable, very secure. You're going to live, you're going to get out of this, and you'll go home someday.
What do you love the most about the air races?
Camaraderie. Everybody is friends, everybody helps each other, and we're all very professional and have a great time.
Some say we're crazy. I'd put it more, we have a deep affliction and a commitment to the skills and the practice of aviation. We love it.
Came for the airplanes and the races, but we keep coming back for the family.
The Section 3 people were just all over me, wanting me to autograph every part of their body, and it was great. I loved Section 3.
If you like P-51s, if you like Warbirds, you like jets, you just like tinkering with airplanes, this is the place.
What's the best part about the air races?
Everything. It's the people that makes it unique.